Many Minnesotans are already voting by mail and in person. There are elections happening all across the state, from school boards to city councils. And right now, we're going to focus on the hotly contested mayoral election in Minneapolis. Big issues are at stake, from the power structure at City Hall to the future of policing in the city. There are 17 candidates in the race, including the incumbent. Each day this week, we'll talk to one of the leading candidates about their views and their plans. Joining me now today is AJ Awed. Awed is the son of war refugees. He was born in Somalia, immigrated with his family to the U.S. when he was 5 years old. The 30-year-old lawyer works as a mediator. He's also the co-executive director of the Cedar Riverside Community Council in Minneapolis. AJ Awed, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Kathy.
How would you approach the job differently from the current mayor, Jacob Fry?
I think I have a whole host of lived experiences that are different, but most importantly, I come from a mediation perspective. I think the city is indeed in a crisis, as he well articulated in 2017. And what we really need is a mediator to really mediate these crises and really bring people together. I love the ending with Governor Walt's campaign ad, and he said it perfectly. We do need to come together, and I think that's the job that I'm running for.
The city council has been described as dysfunctional. So, how, with your mediation skills, would you plan on working with the council?
Well, hopefully we would usher in a new era in the city of Minneapolis. I'm a big proponent of question one on that charter amendment, which is going to hopefully restructure where we have an executive and a legislative function within the city. Uh, After that, I think hopefully there's a lot of synergy. I think I have the natural tendencies to be collaborative. And for me, I have really good community networks in every single ward. As a neighborhood association director, I pride myself in really getting to know neighborhoods. I had the great experience of really touring the whole city of Minneapolis. And to me, those networks are going to hopefully lead me in as a citywide elected official to better build relationships and hopefully get compromises from city council members throughout the city.
The issue in the campaign is the rampant gun violence in the city, especially in North Minneapolis, where some residents say there's so much gunfire at times it sounds like a war zone. What do you think is behind the spike in violence, and how, as mayor, would you deal with it short term?
Uh, so I would say the complete failure in leadership for the city of Minneapolis. The burning of the third precinct was an unfortunate event that shouldn't have not happened. And I think right now when we see the levels of attrition, that has to do directly with the leadership of the city of Minneapolis. I had the fortunate ability to go on a ride along in the fifth precinct, and officers are not fans or confident in the current mayor. So that's the first thing we need to do as a city is we need to get rid of this administration and hold them accountable for their failures. After that, if I'm fortunate enough to earn the support of this community and really break that mold of leadership in the city of Minneapolis, I think I have, again, going back to those credible community relationships to really bring confidence to our hopefully new Department of Public Safety or the MPD in really ranking up recruitment. Because with this distraction right now, with as mayors running for reelection, it's going to be really hard for us to even get to a place where we can bring confidence to the law enforcement apparatus of the city of Minneapolis.
Let me focus in a little bit here on the police department. When you were running for city council in a special election last year, you described yourself at the time as an abolitionist who wanted to defund, disarm, and abolish the police. Now, you're calling for what you've described as an appropriate and proportioned police force. That's quite a change of view. Explain why.
Yeah, and to me, I think the nuance often gets missed, especially when you're someone of color. Black leadership usually has nuance, and in this nuance, what I am saying is very, very clear. I am still an abolitionist. What we were talking about in 2021, what triggered the global racial reckoning, was a need to abolish white supremacy and systematic racism. And for me, abolishing that is really what I'm looking to do and changing the culture of the MPD. But in terms of disarmament and disbandment, I think culturally every elected official in the city at large has bought into this concept of having social work professionals, mental health professionals, and obviously disarming officers in places that violent acts are not needed, right? And for me, that was leverage. We need to all be really serious with ourselves when we talk about the movement. And if people go back to their, 2020 last year, that horrendous, murder of George Floyd, especially as a black man, I think. Uh, people should not conflate what the intentions of our community is. And if people also look at the record as well, my proposal on how we were going to always solve this was always to lean into community. And that is still the proposal right now. I think the miscalculation for many elected officials and many political operatives in the city of Minneapolis is they do not want to empower the voiceless. Communities of color right now in the city of Minneapolis are outright condemning question two and saying we do not want to pursue reforming and transforming the MPD in this fashion. Yet we have progressive leaders and progressive machines and everyone else actually putting in the narrative. I witnessed busloads of people coming in. Right. Currently, if you go to the Minneapolis Voting Center, you'll see tables for Yes for Minneapolis. Those individuals are being bussed in from the South, and they are all black. They are. And when most of our white neighbors see these individuals, they're going to think that the black community is supportive of this. And to me, I'm trying to be a true representative for that community, which is what we are all looking to reconcile in terms of how we deliver policing. And they have to lead on this issue.
Are you voting yes or no on that police ballot question?
Oh, I have been consistently saying to everybody to vote no. That is not community led. I mean, and that's where I think for most elected officials, they're just not getting it. This has to be a moment of transformation. We're dealing with systematic racism and white supremacy. If these are the issues of the day, global racial reckoning was triggered, then why are the communities of color not leading this effort? And why is it being whitewashed? That is why AJ Awed is hopefully trying to deliver this message of unity of coming together, but also highlighting that the need in this moment, in this civil rights moment, is for communities of color, yes, to be stand next to, but ultimately leading on this issue because, whichever way you cut the pie, we will be ultimately receiving the effects of what question two comes out to be.
AJ, I would a lot of things that mayors want to accomplish, don't come free, can't have everything. So, in order to do something about your priorities, what are some of the current city functions or expenditures that could be done away with? How are you going to pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, I'm gonna have to, unlike Sheila, I mean, I'm not an expert in the current budget. I think that's gonna be the work that the next mayor for me, and I'm excited to do. But that's the other philosophy in the city where we have built this scarcity mentality where we're just operating from the limited funds that we have or budgets that we have. I'm actually championing to expand our taxing authority. One of those things is to really start taxing luxury rentals, right? Places that are getting gentrified when we have a majority renter city now and there's going to be less tax base from homeowners, we need to dramatically shift our whole taxing approach. And I think when we start actually advocating for more on the state level for the city of Minneapolis, I think we will be able to get more authority to do creative things like that. And then that to me is going to hopefully lead us to a budgetary practice where we're going to be self-sufficient as a city, because currently the current mayor is promoting a policy that's based on federal funding and state funding. That's not sustainable. And I don't want to be that mayor. I want to champion and really telling the city of Minneapolis that we need to have these creative ways and start actually chipping in more.
Say, I actually want to go ahead and go back to something you said because I was trying to take some notes as you were talking, and we're covering a lot of ground here. I want to be really clear here. You mentioned busloads of individuals coming to vote. Could you please explain that?
No, no, not come to vote. Come to support Yes for Minneapolis to
Thank you.
convince people to actually vote for it. And then these are particularly individuals that are BIPOC, specifically Black folks. And I want to make sure the
And
city of
you've seen
Minneapolis
this happening.
understands.
You've seen this
Oh no,
happening.
I'll tell you, it's right outside of front of the voter station on 980 East Hennepin, right?
Okay.
So I mean, they came in and my office is actually right on East Hennepin as you go down, and I was interested, so I engaged and talked to them, and it was surprising. But that to me again is why we really need to have deep conversations about how we're going to move forward as a city. You know, movements of social change cannot be co-opted, right? It cannot be stripped of its initial challenges. And these are wise words for, a great scholar like Robin DiAngelo that really fights anti-racism. And I think in this moment where we're really actually at a place where we can continue the legacy of Martin Luther King and all the civil rights leaders, to actually invest in the words of John Lewis and saying we can redeem the soul of this city. The messenger matters in Minneapolis,
Okay.
and we need to understand that the next person has to be able to bridge gaps, bridge the differences in the city, and really be able to inspire young Black communities, right, to be able to participate and take their future into their own hands and not let individuals just tell them how they should be doing
Okay.
things or what is in their best interest.
AJ Elwood, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
AJ Elwood is one of the 17 individuals running for mayor of Minneapolis.
Support comes from the Minnesota Orchestra.